in there. So.
Get your rag wet.
That's good. You can set the soap down.
And then you're gonna rub it and get all the soap off. But onto the rag. Right
You gotta rub it, dude. Hard. Push hard.
You want to get your rag nice and clean.
Go up and down. There you go. Back and forth. Rub it hard.
We're doing laundry. If you want to go on that side, there's some dirty rags over there.
Dirty rags?
That's enough. Rinse it out.
Kind of wait in line because it's.
Do it.
Okay, Theron. A big group came. Rinse out.
Go ahead and rinse.
Swish it around. Squeeze it out.
You actually don't have to squeeze it out because this is going to squeeze it for you. Go ahead and just kind of open it up a little bit. Stick a corner up in here. And you're going to come over here and turn this crank.
You're gonna take your rag. You're gonna rub it across there.
It's okay. It'll pull it up. I'll hold it here while you come around. Sorry.
You're okay.
Which way?
I think you pull it towards you. Yep. Now you want to catch it so that water doesn't all go back in it.
Catch it, Theron. Put your hand on it.
Go.
Looky there.
Now, what's it feel like? Does it feel a little drier?
Go hang it up. Get the clothespins. Hang it up. Good job, Theron. Yeah, you did. Hang it over. It's like at home. Remember, you hang it over and then clip it. Yep. It'll dry for the next kid. Good job. If you got any of those symptoms, go inside for the doctor. We're going to visit the doctor.
Oh no, I hope it's not too complicated. Come on in. Oh, help him up. I don't know, she's got smallpox. Okay. All right. We've got 2 of you. So, are you ready? This is the doctor's office of Peter A. Sprunger. So we're going back about 150 years ago. And in this area, a lot of times the doctor would come to you, but he did have an office. And in this area, it was a big German-Swiss community, okay? So we'll have to use some Swiss and some Deutsch to help everybody here. Now, you will be my doctor, okay? Can you do that? Because 150 years ago, our friend here was not going to be a doctor. She might help deliver babies, but medicine wasn't open to women. So you're going to be our patient, and we're going to give you a good German name. So Greta, will you sit on our patient stool here? And then doctor, will you come over here with me? I know you're still in training, so I did provide you with some notes, but this is all things that you should know as a doctor. Okay, you know that there's a lot of contagious diseases out here in the 1800s, correct? And 3 of those diseases that we're really worried about are diphtheria, cholera, and smallpox. If something is contagious, what does that mean? Do you know?
That it can pass one to somebody else.
Very good. It can spread very, very quickly. Coughing, sneezing, sometimes the blankets of a sick person. So these are very, very serious diseases. So we're going to ask her if she has any of these symptoms. And when we ask Greta a question, if the question is asked like this, what do you think the answer is? Yeah, the answer is yes. And if we ask her a question like this, what is the answer? No or 9, okay? So, doctor, can you look at any of these and ask her if she has any of these symptoms so we can narrow it down and figure out what the problem is?
What do you think she might have? Pick one.
Ask her if she has a fever, a headache, a sore throat.
Okay, ask her.
Diarrhea, fatigue.
Do you have a fever?
Do you have a fever? Yeah. Has it been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days? Yeah. Yeah, she's had a fever for about 5 days. Does she have cholera? No. She doesn't have any of those symptoms. Like, well, fever's not one of those symptoms. So it could be diphtheria, or it could be smallpox. So let's think. What's another one from this category or this category that we can ask her so we can narrow it down?
Sore throat.
Sore throat. Do you have a sore throat? Not really? It's not bad? Good. What do you think, doctor? Possible smallpox?
What's it look like?
Well, let's take a look. Can you pull up your sleeves, please? Doctor, do you notice any little red spots on her arms?
Pretending,
If you
yes.
really look closely, you kind of notice some. Now, I'm really concerned that those red spots are going to develop into blisters. And unfortunately, we can take a look at someone who has full-blown smallpox. And this is what it looks like. Okay. And this is a picture of a girl about her age. So, doctor, I need you to show this to your patient. Okay. This is a possibility of what it could look like with your smallpox. And at this time, because you are contagious, the best thing we can do is we can quarantine. So, doctor, do you know what it means to quarantine, doctor? It means we want to. What does it mean? We want to keep everybody away from her, right? So this is for you. Give this to the patient. This is a quarantine flag. And we would give this to our patient. And where do you think the patient should put that if our goal is to keep everybody away from her? On her. Okay. I've had a lot of first-year medical students make that mistake. If Greta puts this on her, is that going to stop her from going to school, going to church, or going to Grandma Luganbill's house over here?
No.
No. Grandma Luganbill comes up and she's like, what is on her shirt? And she gets really close and reads it, and what does Greta do? She coughs all over Grandma.
Oh no.
So if we want to isolate her and keep her away from everyone, is there a better place to put this that's not on her? Do you think people at her house have smallpox if they've been in contact with her?
Theron.
Yeah. So what about that? What about the door to her home or on her front porch? That way when people are driving their buggies past and they see this, they know that this house is, you can't go to it. Okay? Scarlet fever was another disease that we were worried about. I know $10 might not seem like a lot of money to you, but it was. You could actually go to jail if you broke quarantine because you're putting the whole community in risk. Now let's see here, doctor. Is she going to die? It's possible, okay? She could go blind if those pox get infected in her eyes, but chances are she's gonna have really, really bad scarring because all of those pus-filled lesions they're gonna lead to pits and scars. But you don't need to worry because someone that you have heard of, most famous person probably in all of American history, had smallpox. And he was the first president of the United States. Who was it? George Washington. And things turned out pretty good for him, right? George Washington actually probably saved hundreds of lives with smallpox. Because when he was younger, he was exposed to it just a little bit, and he built up an immunity towards it. And then he realized new medicine was out where they inoculated people. They would give them just a little bit of the disease so their body could fight it off. And people were scared to do that. They thought that was crazy. But he really pushed for people in his army to do it, and because of that, not as many people died. Later on, they did develop a vaccination for smallpox, and it was policy that people did get vaccinated. You have never been vaccinated for it. Chances are your mom and dad haven't either, but your grandparents or great-grandparents probably were. Smallpox was destroyed by the 1970s because so many people got vaccinated for it. It does still exist in laboratories, so people could do bad things with it, but for the most part, it's not something that you ever have to worry about. Are we thankful for modern medicine? I am, because that would be heartbreaking to see your mom, your brother or sister, or anybody go through that kind of suffering, right? Very painful. Very painful. So, I want to say danke to you, and if by any chance you eat caramel corn and have a problem with your teeth, you can come back, and your doctor was also your dentist. Be more than happy to pull those for you. These up here are just a few that I got last year from students who actually had parents sign waivers so I could pull their teeth.
We're gonna go look at
Okay, that I made up. Everything else.
You're going to go around the path, and you dip it in the cold water,
then the hot wax, and then the cold water. Okay, we'll keep going.
Cool, Theron. Dip it all the way down to the end of the branch. All the way down. There you go. Keep walking.
Follow the path. Follow the path. This is so fun. Isn't it? Yeah. He said we had a long way to go.
Dip.
There you go, just like that.
Now what?
Just keep going.
Keep going.
You gotta build it a little bigger.
Okay, you gotta keep making it bigger. Oh my.
Oh, I'm making a candle.
I bet you never thought you'd see this, would you, on a school day?
Okay, one dip and walk. Good job.
Yeah.
And I want to get a lot of hot wax.
Yeah, Mr. Fiddle-Off, you expect it because it's October.
Whoa.
One more trip?
Yeah, one more lap, you girls will be done.
You're getting the hang of it now, Theron. This would be hard work when you were a kid, wouldn't it?
We're taking these home. This is going to be so... Oh, look how big mine is.
I probably should have got the gray one out. It would have
Mine's
felt better.
new.
Oh well. Okay, step right
Dip
over
it down.
here. We'll get you cut loose.
Look at the bottom. Do like right here.
Just, yeah, throw the stick right down there. And there you go. A unique, one-of-a-kind, never to be recreated candle that you made yourself. How about that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let it cool off and then I'll put it in my bag. Let's go over here. Oh,
Swiss
we're inside
is
the log
very
cabin.
close to German. Similar.
Are you having a good time?
Yeah.
What has been your favorite station?
I brought my little bear with me today, just to show you the Swiss flag right here, and then this is the Berne flag, because here in Berne, Indiana, our town got named because a larger group of people came over and settled here first, and they were from the Berne area of Switzerland. So that's how our town got its name. So I can pass them around. Just be nice to my bear, please. But you can pass him around and look at those flags up close.
Is he a stuffed animal? Yes, he is.
Yes.
Is he a stuffed animal? Yes, he is.
It's not a real bear.
I thought it was just like a fake stuffed bear.
Before we actually take and learn a little bit of the actual Swiss, hi, come on in.
I thought it was all Confederate coming here.
I'm gonna tell you a couple things about the cabin, because this is a really cool building that we're sitting in, okay? It's the oldest building out here on Swiss Heritage grounds. So anywhere else that you go today, whether it's in the barn or out at the church or the schoolhouse, any of the other places, this building here is the oldest one. It was built back in the years 1840, 1841, and it was built by a family that happened to be German. Their names were Witte. Come on in and sit down.
Can't really see him.
And they came over from Germany. They settled in the northern part of Adams County, and that's where they built this cabin. And it stood there for many, 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 many years, probably 100 years or so. And then a family took it all apart because they didn't want it on their ground anymore. And so it was stacked up and sitting there. And then it got moved here, and they rebuilt the cabin with that wood. So when you look at the walls in here, this is
logs that were cut down clear back in the year 1840, 1841. And see how these markings are on here? Isn't that interesting? Do you want to say something?
What is that white stuff?
What is what?
What is the white stuff?
The white stuff.
The white.
Oh, in the middle. Yeah, this helps hold the logs. Well, it doesn't really hold the logs together. The logs are held together okay, but this fills in the gaps. Because when you've got, I mean, it's uneven or rounding and stuff, then things could crawl in, right? Or the cold would come in. So they would put this is called chinking, and they would fill in all the cracks like that so it would seal up the cabin, so it would stay warm.
It looks like they cranked the water.
It looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah. I do want to show you this one tool, and then I promise we'll learn some Swiss. But this tool here is what was used. This was very important back in that time to be able to make the logs for the cabin. And at first glance, you might think it's an axe, or some people say, oh, a pickaxe, but there's no pick on it. Okay, this is a flat end, this is a flat end. This tool is called an adze, and it's spelled A-D-Z-E. All right, it was very important.
It looks like an axe.
I know. They would cut down trees when it came time to build their cabin. They'd have to go out, find their trees, cut the trees down, and then this would be used like this, along or standing this, to take the bark off of the tree and to make it, you know, trees are round, right? But if you look at these walls, they're flat. So this helped make it flat. And that's why you see all these marks like that. It's from this kind of tool, hitting it like this. Okay? Isn't that interesting?
Yep.
And you'll notice that in our cabin, there's no electricity. We don't have any light switch we can just flip on. I have all 3 of my lights lit today, and it's still dark in here, isn't it? Because the sun's not shining. It's not coming in the windows. But that's just the way it is. So you'd have to do most of your work outside where you can see. You do your wash outside. You cook outside a lot of the times over a fire. Now, the Whitty family, they did. No, we don't have a stove in here, but they had a nice cook stove in this cabin that they cooked on, and that heated the cabin for them too, because they did not build a fireplace in here. That's the way it was. Okay, now, a little bit of some Swiss. Are you ready? Okay, now we're going to do this a little old-fashioned way, because when they went to school early on, like way 100 years ago, went to school, they didn't have lots of books and papers, and they didn't have computers, right? No computers, anything like that. So they had to do a lot of teacher says something, students repeat. Teacher says something, students repeat. And go back and forth like that to just learn. Okay, so that's what we're going to try today, so that when you leave, maybe you'll remember 1 or 2 things in Swiss to say when you go home tonight. Okay? This first word up here, Schweizerdeutsch, that just means Swiss German. Okay, Schweizerdeutsch, that's what we're learning here. Firstly, how to say hi. Okay, because if you meet somebody that's Swiss, you want to be able to say hello to them. My favorite one is Grüezi. Grüezi.
Repeat it.
You guys try it? Grüezi. Grüezi. Are you, one of the things that you try to do is, roll your R. Grüezi. You gotta do it back here though, not up here. I'm not very good at that. Grüezi. Okay? Or, this is a little bit easier. Hoi.
Hoi.
Okay? So turn to your neighbor, somebody near you, and just say hello. Either way. Grüezi.
Hoi. Say it.
Hoi.
You have to look and say.
Okay, now moving on.
Yeah.
That was good. I hear many of you saying the words. Very good. Moving on, we want to be able to introduce ourselves, and so to say that my name is, and then put your name at the end, okay? So my name is Debbie, so I would say the sentence right here with Debbie at the end, okay? In Swiss, to say my name is, you say me. This is pronounced me. Okay? Name. Ish.
Ish.
Okay. So we put it all together. Mi Name ish.
Mi Name ish.
Okay. So I'm going to say my name, and then I want all of you to say your names, but all together at one time. Okay, ready? Mi Name ish Debbie.
Mein Name ist Thursa.
Nice to meet you.
Good job, Theron. He almost. Very close.
If you want to ask somebody how they are doing, like how's it going, how are you, that kind of thing, then we've got this first word here is V, and it sounds just like our letter in the alphabet, V. Okay, the V, right?
V.
That's how you say that. V, and then this word here, it looks like boots because you think of the word boots, and that makes sense, right? But in Swiss, you have to use more of your mouth. You get kind of a workout in your face when you're trying to say these words. So it's not just goots, it's goots. Goots.
Like you're going to blow a bubble. Ooh.
And you know why? You know why we have to do that and it's so exaggerated? It's because we didn't grow up saying these words. Now, if you grow up Swiss, you don't go around going, "Wie gut." You know, they don't look like that when they talk, but they just know how to make, their mouth just makes that sound because they already did it their whole lives. But it's foreign to us, so it feels weird. So, how are you? Wie gut. Very good, very good. Okay, now there's two ways to respond that we'll learn today. Either you're doing well, you're doing good, or not well, it's not good. It's raining out. It's not good, okay? First of all, we have danke gut. Danke gut. This danke actually means thank you. Danke.
Danke.
And then gut, this middle part right here, that's kind of tricky. Watch me and then you join in when you get it. Okay? Then we just put the letters on the ends and we've got gut. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and that's Swiss for good. Danke gut. Yeah, so wie gut? Danke gut. Okay? Or nüt gut. And then the last one here before we get to our bonus round is how to say goodbye. Bye in Swiss is oof. And then this word is wiederlege. Your bread.
It is what it is.
Because when it was used, it was way back in olden days when they maybe would go to the bakery and have to spend like this little coin to get a loaf of bread for the day. Well, you can't have that coin in your hand if you give it to the person and get your bread. You can't have everything. Okay? So here's how it sounds. Now don't laugh at me. I'm going to say it a couple times so you can hear it, but deal, you're not going to laugh, right?
How hard is that going to be?
Here's how it sounds when it comes out as a Swiss. Ready? You're not supposed to laugh.
It's kind of funny.
You guys think you can learn it? Do you think you can learn it?
Can you say it one more time?
Well, we're going to just take a sound at a time, okay? So again, listen to me and then you repeat, all right? Me. Mecha. Now this one right here, that's the fun one because just don't spit on anybody near you. But that's where you kind of clear your throat. Ha. Okay? So together, mecha. Knit. Mechanet. One more time. Mechanet. Svegli. It's the Z, and then B. Svegli. Zwoofy. Yeah, that's like a Z with an F. Zwoof. Yeah? Zwoofy. Ha. And it's not ha like ha. It's ha. Ready? Mechanet. Svegli och Zwoofy. Now the whole phrase together,
Oh my.
and then you repeat it. Mechanet svegli och Zwoofy ha. Good. That sounds
Good
pretty
try,
good.
Theron.
Yeah, somebody
Very
can't
good
stop
try.
Yeah, I'll give everybody an A today. Even the laugher. Anybody have any questions before you go?
I'm so tired.
It better be a proper question.
You want to go to the sawmill?
Yeah, they want to be able to cut walls.
Cross-cut sign?
Yeah.
I think it's on the path back
I did that.
out of the woods.
I did that.
It's along there.
Is it along there somewhere?
I think you'll see that.
They've been, yeah.
Yeah, go use your muscles and... Okay, can you remember how to say goodbye? Oof, Vidaluga?
Okay, ask her your question.
Bye. Have a good day.
Theron, go up to her and ask her question.
You have a question? What would you like to know?
Do you know who built this house?
Yes, their name was Witti, or we say in German Witti. It was a family named Witti. I think the man's name was Conrad. Conrad Witti.
Was
They
it
lived a long time ago. They built the cabin clear back in the year 1840, 1841. So like 150 years ago.
was it here in this county?
It was built in the in Preble Township area, so north end of Adams County.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
Rain, rain, go away. Come again another day.
Flat boards like this I want to do. Thanks for coming today.
Can you come over here, Splitwood? Now that it's rained so much, fire feels good.
Let's
go. Over here to dry out.
Hey, I don't blame you.
Let's get us real.
Mom.
You hold it? Yep, exactly.
Oh, this is heavy.
Is that as heavy as the one you shooting 4-H, Theron? Nope, no pointing. Can you ask him what the parts of his uniform are?
Hey, if you guys want to sit down, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing back here.
Okay, have a seat. Theron, your jacket covers your bottom. You're fine. Park it now. You have to sit down.
Okay. There is no left. Okay, they're pretty much just a square shoe. Now over time, these are about 10 years old. They start to mold to your feet. But the logic behind that was if I was in battle and I lost a shoe and I needed a shoe and there was someone who'd been killed in battle, I didn't have to know if it was a right or a left. I can just take their shoe. Okay, and then you put on, you can start going. Okay, those were brokers. They had wool pants, they had cotton shirts and wool coats. They wore wool all year round. They wore wool all year round. This is their kepi. Hey Paul,
Yes, sir.
can you come here a second? There were two types of caps they would wear. This was called a kepi. It was basically to keep the sun off your head. Again, also wool. It was a very warm hat. But they also had what's called a foraging cap. Paul's wearing what's called a foraging cap, which is, you can tell it does the same function except his is very deep. And that's what it's for, to go foraging. So like if you were to go with apples and all kinds of stuff, if you were out on the camp, what they call the campaign. We represent what's called the 35th 1st Irish. We were an all-Irish unit out of Indianapolis, mustered early in the war, and they asked Governor Morton if they could wear green kepis to make sure they kept their Irish roots. And so there were two groups that had non-blue kepis, or non-gray in the Confederacy, and that were the Irish of the 10th Tennessee and the Irish of the 35th Indiana. They both got to wear green kepis. So when they would go off, when they'd be hanging around in camp, they looked a lot like Paul. They may have their coat on because one of the requirements was you always had your coat on unless they were allowed to what they called de-blouse. Okay, the commander would allow them to de-blouse. If not, you kept your coat on all the time, even if it was 90 degrees. Now you could keep it buttoned. You'd have one button, but you have it on. But so if you were in camp, this is what you would be. If they would call you to arms, we're going off to a battle, then this is what you would end up looking like. You would put on what they called their leathers. And that is, you'd have a cartridge box, and in here it carries all your bullets and your powder are all in here, all encased in already pre-rolled cartridges. You have a cap box. This one actually fires your weapon, and then you'd have your gun. So as you would go off to march, you would grab all your stuff. You'd have on your belt also would be your bayonet. You'd go off to march. You'd carry your weapon straight up and down. So you may have to march 4 or 5 miles to the battle, but you would, like if you're at Monroe, you'd be camped here. Maybe have to walk to march to Monroe. You'd march with the gun at your side. It's about 9.5 pounds. It gets pretty heavy after a while. So they'd have you switch. You might carry it like this. You know, you might carry it like this. But the one thing that was common is you always carried it with the barrel straight up. The reason is there was always somebody right behind you. So you know the guy behind you says something, you go, what? You start wiping out entire rows. Okay, so you always had to make sure your gun was pointed straight up. When you got to the battle, you would line up, you'd walk in groups of 4. You'd be lined up 4, and however deep your company was. You might be back 2 or 3 miles. Once you were out where the battle was, you would line up basically shoulder to shoulder, and then you would count off 1s and 2s. And once you were counted off, the 2s would take a step back and a step over. You were now the second row, the second rank. And the reason you counted off and you lined up by height, you always wanted to make sure the taller people were in the back, because I am going to fire over Paul's shoulder. So if he's taller than I am, I can't do this, So I always made sure the shorter ones were in front. So once you were in your line of 2, they would fire by different types. They'd fire by rank. Front row would shoot. Then rear rank would fire. While they're firing, the front row is reloading. A good soldier could load and fire 3 times in 1 minute. We think today, we think in terms of rounds per second. That was rounds per minute, and that was 3. So the whole time you're loading your weapon to prepare, someone on the other side is firing at you. So you've got to be very quick about it. You can't rush, you can't panic, but you better get loaded quickly. And so a lot of times you have a big group of people firing, a lot of smoke and a lot of noise. I don't know if my gun went off. So what do? I reload. Now I might have 2 bullets down in my chamber. If it went off, now there's 2 bullets going across the field. It makes a really loud boom. But there were a lot of guys that were found killed in battle that might have had 3 or 4 rounds stuffed into their barrels. Their gun was never going off. And they didn't even know it. Because a lot of times they don't kick like you think of guns. Sometimes they have a real kick to it. They don't have a kick to them. And with all the noise and the smoke, you didn't know if your gun went off.
Black powder in particular, compared to powder nowadays is very clean. Black powder fouls up an awful lot. Because if you take your finger, don't do this ever.
Well,
you're allowed to do it. But if you take that's all that black schmutz that builds up, and it gets to a point where this ramrod will not go down the barrel. And sometimes what happens is the cone here, where the percussion cap fits on, sometimes that would get fouled up, and the spark would not be able to get in to where the powder is. So you may fire, you even have the little pop from the cap itself, but it's not going to go off in the main chamber.
And they would give you your rounds of ammunition. They were pre-rolled. It would look like this. This would be what the cartridge would look like. And in every pack, there's like 10 in a pack. One of those was what they called a clean round, which had no bullet in it, and it had a strong, intense, like clean powder. And that would actually try to clean your barrel out. Don't know how effective it was, but they did that. You had no idea. You would load and fire and nothing, no bullet, but it would be to clean your gun. Okay. So
if
once
someone's close enough, that would hurt anyways, even though there was no bullet behind it.
You're sending out a pretty big wad of paper. So what they would do is they would take out the cartridge and look just like this. It's rolled in paper. It is powder, about 60 grams of powder, and then there'd be a bullet on the bottom of it, so when you turn it upside down and ram it down. Okay. So you would take this out, you would tear it open, you'd pour the powder down. Okay. You'd take your ramrod out, you ram it down, make sure it's seated well. Key port, take the ramrod out. Again, a lot of times in a panic or in a rush, I'm loaded, right? I want to quick get my cap on and fire my weapon. If you don't put this back, your gun becomes useless because you can't load your weapon. And they won't bring it back to you, I promise you. If you shoot it over to their side, they'll just hang on to it. Okay? Return that. You bring your gun up here. You take the cap, you place it on. You are now in what is referred to as a safety mode. Have you ever heard the term somebody going off half-cocked? That's what this is. You are in half-cocked. Okay? The gun can't go forward. You can't pull the trigger. Okay? But once in a while, those would go off. And if it did, it meant you weren't ready, you weren't prepared, you weren't clean. I mean, you did something wrong. You just went off half-cocked. Okay? That's where the term comes from today. Once you were in this position, you'd bring the gun back to attention. So now the officer can see everybody's lined up. Nobody's in this position. Nobody's in this position. They're all in this position. It means every single one of them now is ready to fire their weapon. So whether in the ranks or even in individuals, they would give them the command to make ready.
Make ready.
They'd pull the hammer back.
Aim.
Take their aim.
Fire.
Fire.
And then they would literally stay there for the command of recover, which meant come back here, and then the command of reload. Because you didn't always reload automatically. It's not automatic, so you don't just have another chamber ready to go. You have to actually reload it. But the commanding officer may go, we don't want to be here anymore. We need to move away from here. So we're going to retreat, or we're going to swing left or swing right. I don't want to do that when I'm carrying around a loaded gun. So a lot of times it would just be recover, and then close ranks, and you'd come back in your ranks. They'd give you a command and away you'd go. Any questions?
Is that a real bullet?
It was real powder, but there's no bullet in it. Yeah.
I don't think Harris Material would want to shoot at their building over there.
We do live firing. We have a range we go to sometimes and shoot just for fun.
How far, what would be like the average range
well,
that it would shoot?
And really, actually, with the weaponry of that day, which is what this is in 1853, is they would have very little accuracy if it was the old smooth bore barrels. When the war started, you used a steel ball and a smooth bore. So basically, you put the steel ball down, you fired it, and if I aimed, it might aim towards you and it might hit you. Okay, because as the bullet came out of the barrel, it'd have a spin on it. It had no rifling, so it was just whatever it was doing when it came out, and that spin would just take it off and went into the ground, over your head, whatever. So that's why if you saw, like even Revolutionary War, they would bunch everybody together, get them into really tight ranks and stack them, one down their knee, one standing, one behind. I mean, they have them all packed in there. The logic was if we had 10 guys shooting into you, somebody's going to get hit. Okay, it may not be all 10 of you, but somebody's going to get hit. Well, when the Civil War progressed, they turned to rifling in the barrels, and they went from steel balls to lead. Okay, this is a lead, what they call a mini ball. This is actually the bullets they would use. Okay, once these were now down in here and going through a rifled barrel, they would come out spinning like the spiral on a football. Okay, you can just take a football. That was a good analogy. You can take a football and just throw it. It's going to wobble, and you just fire it away. Okay.
Effective range of the gun, they're touted as being accurate to 1,000 yards. So it's about 10 football fields long. Most of the time, you're not going to hit something out that far because with the naked eye, that's almost a mile. So to be able to hit a person at a mile, maybe a barn at a mile, hitting a person at a mile is pretty unlikely.
Yeah. They try to be within a couple hundred yards of each other for true accuracy. One last thing, this is the bayonet.
Yeah.
If they got close to each other in combat, they would tell them to fix bayonet. There wasn't enough room anymore to load your weapon, so they'd fix bayonets. Basically what happened is your gun became a knife. Okay. The problem is the men hated this weapon, absolutely hated it. Part of the reason is you notice on a knife, it's got two sides, right? It's a blade with two sides. This has three sides, and it's not sharp. This is this is what it would have been exactly like, but it's sharp here. Point is, all I got to do is get it inside of you, and then I can cause all kinds of damage. Okay, this didn't cut a knife. If you've ever cut yourself and had stitches, you slice and you put them together and you stitch. This had three sides to it. You couldn't ever stitch it together. So literally what you were doing was creating a wound that guy would live with the rest of his life. The men thought that was just brutal. So a lot of times when they'd fix bayonet and go into hand-to-hand combat, they would actually go in like this and then simply turn their gun backwards and fight with the butt of their gun. Because they can kill you just as easy with this as they can with this. And the point was not to maim you, but to kill you. Any other questions? Comments?
Any more questions?
Maybe we'll stand by the fire and warm up?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Yes.
How'd they make their gunpowder?
Just how they make their gunpowder.